And I am the Legislative Affairs Director with the Student Senate of California Community Colleges. I will be hosting the Basic Needs Listening Forum today. Now we will be passing off to the college president to do introductions, and I can take the floor back. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome to those of us joining in person and also in virtual space to Laney College. We are so pleased to host the SSCCC for this important listening session today, and we recognize and appreciate your leadership in the state and what your voices mean to what our community colleges look like. And I just want to start by acknowledging and appreciating that. Normally when before I get to that, I also want to extend an appreciation and recognition to the Associated Students of Laney College as well for their leadership, and I see some in attendance today, and want to extend welcome and appreciation to them, because a lot of what I'm about to share, they share in the credit for. When this opportunity came for Laney College to host this today, I was so excited. And I have to say that because right now, during this year, Laney College really has upped its focus on student basic needs. In addition to basic student needs, one other issues we saw was the number of students who were not applying for financial aid. And we basically tackled both problems by launching the Laney College Fall is Free and Spring is Free initiatives. What we essentially said was that for students who apply for a FAFSA or submit their DREAM Act paperwork, Laney College, regardless of the outcome, would cover their tuition and fees, their books, their transportation, be it AC Transit or parking, on-campus meals, lunch, also technology, Chromebooks, as well as Wi-Fi access, so that students could focus on what is really important, namely their studies. The response from our students and from the community has been incredible. Last semester, we saw a 13% increase in our enrollment at the end of the semester, and I checked my computer as of this morning. We have an 18% increase this spring over a year ago. No, thank you for the applause up there. It's important, and I think it also is really a window into perhaps the success we've had thus far with our initiatives. This experience, though, is not just about 1 year. It's not just about 2022-23. It's about moving forward and recognizing the fact that help for students does not end with covering tuition if they qualify for financial aid. That there are so many other needs that we're trying to meet. And I think we've succeeded in meeting some of them so far this year. I would make an appeal to our student government leadership, both at Laney and across the state, to continue this conversation, to get us to a point where addressing student basic needs is something that is part of the regular budget for the state. It's something that all of you as students and as our communities can depend on. So I realize that's a heavy responsibility, but I will pledge that as the president of this college, and with so many others here at Laney and throughout our Peralta district, you have allies in this cause. So with that, I know that all of you did not tune in to listen to a college president go on and on and on for 3 hours. I was told only 1 hour. Oh no, just a few minutes. But anyway, with all that said, I just want to say the Laney campus is yours. SSCCC, welcome. And please, as you leave today, do not think of this as goodbye, but we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Rocky, for your amazing speech and having us on campus today. Now, the Student Senate of California Community Colleges is recognized by the California State Legislature as the official spokesperson for the 1.8 million students, of those students statewide. Additionally, something that accessibility represents is the millions of students on state level shared governance and legislative advocacy. The work we do includes developing and publishing legislative priorities, creating and training the advocacy to students like these events, and also creating toolkits, advocacy toolkits, and planning and hosting events. And supporting bills such as the Assembly Member Bonan's AB 775 from 2021 that established funding for basic needs centers on campus across all California community colleges. So right now, this event is an informational forum to promote and collect data on what students are going through so that we can quantify the data and use it when we advocate and pitch towards legislators and build the relationship between legislators and students. Because our voices are the most important voices when we advocate and when we share our experiences. So this is an informational forum, and we hope that everybody feels comfortable to participate. And we also have a photo and film disclosure disclaimer so that this event is being recorded. And if you have any problems, please state it right now. So we want to make sure that everybody is comfortable in our space. Okay, and I will pass it off to Kevin to do a land acknowledgement.
Great, thank you, Sanel. Thank you so much for allowing me to be able to give a land acknowledgement in front of so many people here. And thank you so much for being able to be here today. So if I could get a moment to pull up my land acknowledgement, I could be able to give it. All right, let's do it. All right. We begin by acknowledging that this land is unceded indigenous land. The territories we represent are of the indigenous people. To acknowledge this history of our country, that this nation was built on genocide, the exclusion and erasure of indigenous people, grounds our work in truth. We acknowledge that our modern global economy was founded on the free and forced labor of enslaved Black people, and that the exploited labor of continuously perpetuates itself in disadvantaged communities of color, as we see in the treatment of farm workers, immigrant workers, prison labor, and domestic workers. This practice of land acknowledgement calls on us to recognize our violent history that is the foundation of white supremacy, and to recognize the long-standing, ongoing resistance of people of color, dehumanization, repression, and homicide. And that the brilliance and leadership of people of color in resistance, vision, wisdom, and love be honored and recognized as we work to dismantle ongoing legacies of settlers, colonialism, and anti-Blackness. Thank you so much. I'll pass it on to Chanel.
So over this event, we will be going over the introduction and the guest speaker, which unfortunately could not be joining us, but we hope that we can bring this recordings and student testimonies back to all the offices that we will be meeting over the future. And then we will be having a student panel and then student advocacy, how to conduct advocacy on different levels of policies such as the college, district, and state level. And then after that will be the conclusion. That's the agenda for today. Okay. So the Student Senate of California Community Colleges have approximately 52,000 students in the Parada district and the region, which consists of 6 districts: Parada Community College District, San Mateo Community College District, San Francisco Community District, Contra Costa Community District. And we have monthly assembly meetings with each representative from all the 13 colleges. And after that, we have a delegate general assembly every annual year so that we establish resolutions and priority for the organization in the end of March this year, which will be March 31st to April 2nd, and we vote on issues and resolutions. So what are basic needs? So we want to really bring this conversation back to the students on what basic needs are, because basic needs differ from different people to different people. Basic needs are fundamental to student success, not only outside of the classroom, but also inside of the classroom, so that students are really engaged and really supported in their roles as a student leader, as also on campus and off campus. But first, I would like to bring back the floor to the students here on what they feel like the most important issues. What do you think of basic needs?
So coming from my campus experience, I feel like one of the basic things that is nice to cover, at least like a priority, with always food, is because we get a lot of people coming in, especially this new semester, even recently like new students coming in, who are like expecting a lot of I guess they're expecting coverage on free food or lunches whenever they come in. And it's sad whenever we told them we had like only like one certain day we could actually give them a free lunch. Or if we told them we had to charge for our lunch. So I feel there's some people coming in that like we don't know their background, but they might be struggling with being able to eat enough when they're over here. So it's nice that we were able to cover.
Anybody? Anybody? Anybody else?
I suppose I'll speak. One thing that I mentioned, and I've been having conversations with Chanel and other folks about this, is that I'm based out of Richmond, California, and so we have a big housing problem, including like food insecurities. And so I've been talking to the mayor and also like a lot of folks. And my specialty is like environmental activism. But when I talk to folks that are in like housing, food insecurities, like their line of work with activism and everything, they give me a different perspective that I can't really like express.
Because I feel like for me, I have to be 19 years old, and so I live with my parents and everything, and so I'm super fortunate enough to be able to. Great. Hello. Well, I'm gonna try to talk loud. I'm fortunate enough to be able to have a roof over my head, have food and everything, and so I think that's something that a lot of students and a lot of people don't really acknowledge, like people my age, that people have to go through something like that. And so when I see someone, you know, when I'm doing student government stuff, that they're homeless or they don't have nowhere to go, I think that's very unfortunate. And I did see something in the news in LA about tiny homes, and I forgot where it's in LA, but it's like people say like ghosts, like go out, like go away, like don't camp there, don't stay there. But where else are they gonna go? And so that's where I'm coming from. Like I don't know, like how do we reduce that? How can, you know, EOPS and all the other programs like provide for those, you know, those insecurities?
So I think this also brings back to my attention that we really want to use this event to highlight the fact that basic needs are a necessity, and students put survival as they should before their education. And if we really want higher education to be accessible to everybody, we need to focus on survival, and housing and food has been a consistent effort in our higher education, but it has not been highlighted enough that people really do need access to resources, and people don't know the resources that are implemented on campus when we think of these conversations. So are there any other input from what you think basic needs are on your campus?
And at the school, at the moment, it's follows free, or spring is free, so everything's free. But then later on, transportation is actually added to your tuition, which is another $42. And while that does help, a lot of students take other forms of transportation. I know we cover the bus, but we also take BART, which isn't covered by the school. And honestly, transportation, it sometimes takes an hour to get to school, just taking public transportation. So I think that's another like really big need that students have, covering the cost of transportation, actually getting to the school, because if you can't get to the school, then, and a lot of classes are in person now, if you can't get to the school, how are you going to take your classes? So that's another thing that the school, or just in general, that we should address is the covering the cost of transportation. And sometimes transportation doesn't necessarily get to your house, or it's very difficult. Sometimes you have to take like 3 trains or 2 trains or 2 buses and then connect to a train. And that might be a city thing, but that's another thing that, that's a big thing that I feel like we also need to address. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, how are we as students going to embrace our digital future? I think in terms of like how our students are kind of more oriented to online schooling, and how can we accommodate students to online schooling, and how we can look forward to that in the future as well. Like, how can we accommodate these online students? Like, what if they don't want to transition back to in-person classes, right? Because if you think about a student, right? A student has to think about work, think about going to school. These are transportation issues, right? We have to think about getting to school, getting to class physically, right? Whereas online classes, right? We see that like it's so much more accessible, right? I think with online classes, it's so much easier for some students to not make that trip physically and attend. However, they are missing out on the hands-on experience, but they are, they are learning, right? And we are seeing students choosing this route, like with how students are like looking at like remote work or remote learning. I just want to bring to the table and like a food for thought, how can we accommodate the basic needs for online students as well?
So for people who online, there was conversation around online accessibility and how students online who are not able to come on campus is one of the things that we need to look at when we think of basic needs, and the conversation when we have with policymakers and college administrators when we think of hybrid options and classes. For this event, we really want to focus on food and housing insecurity, just because our region is in the East Bay and Bay Area, and we recognize that these are one of the major issues, that the housing prices and food prices are comparably really high compared to the national benchmarks. So we have for the Chancellor's office, they define what basic needs as in food and housing: food security, housing security, financial stability, health and wellness, and transportation. But these are not just like the only basic needs that we identify. Every basic needs is really different for different people. Like we had this conversation, there are some people who think transportation is the most important basic needs. There's some people who think housing is the most important basic needs, or even like online accessibility. So this time this is just a general definition, but these are not all the things on the table right now. So for food insecurity, we recognize that from the year 2016 to 2019, the 37% of the students who were surveyed were facing food insecurity, even though there are already resources available on campus, like EOPS and everything available on campus. There's just different and comparatively significant amount of students who are facing food insecurity. So we would like to bring this back to you guys on why you think food is not accessible when we think of the number and statistics.
So if I get your question right, so we're talking about food insecurity.
Yeah.
So you need us to talk more on this, right?
Yeah.
about what we can actually do or what do we need, right? Hi everyone. My name is Omola Tagabi and I'm representing associate students of Laney College. And we're talking now about food insecurity. And we know our students actually need these basic needs for them to function well. So from my own perspective, I feel that the government can actually do more for us when we talk about food, because now we know what's going on. Even outside of the campus, we have a lot of students, like our parents, don't really have much. So we rely on the government as students to help us provide probably like bills or something that can help students to have access to good foods, if you know what I mean. Produce, cooked foods, and maybe like vouchers. I think voucher would be very good, you know, so that we can use vouchers on campus and even outside of campus. Because we've been having issues with food, and we have issues with housing. So a lot of our students don't come to school because they don't have places to lay their heads on. And also the food thing is very, very important that we talk about food. I don't know if you have another question for us or something. Okay, go ahead.
With rising inflation, how can we address the food insecurity that we pose in our current society? I think this is very important for us as students and for voices in government and voices in legislature to properly address for students. I know that for Laney College, we have free lunches for students, and we are very supportive of our students. And so it is very important for not only just the Peranza District or Laney College to help support our students, but the entire state of California to help support students who are facing food insecurity, as well as everyone who may not have a meal on a certain day. And it is very important for us to address that. And because rising inflation and labor and everything combined, it's really hard for some students to be able to just live due to the hardships. And we have to be sure to be able to support them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a student panel with specific questions later on in the agenda, but these are just input that I wanted to bring and recognize the voices of students on issues such as these. But we have specific questions later on. I know this is a very big question, so yeah. So for housing insecurity, we also found out that 49.2% of the students responding to surveys with reported experiencing some sort of housing insecurity. And housing insecurity does not just tie back to being homeless. It also applies to being the rent being unaffordable to some students. And furthermore, we want to highlight that COVID pandemic has really made the situation really worse, and as a result, these insecurities are only the two out of many inequalities that students in communities like the district face. And students can participate in any programs, initiatives, and clubs that address these issues, amplifying the voices to administrators and to your local district trustees will help create consistent and accessible resources for students. In addition, joining the student government can also be a resource for students and help create change. As a student government, as a student can be government given the right to engage with the college faculty, staff, and administrators on issues relating to students. So we want to bring back the floor to the students who from the Laney College student government on why they think joining on a student advocacy on a college level is important.
That's a very good question. I feel that a lot of students don't really understand what it means to be a student. Pardon me to say that. The reason why I'm saying this, they don't know that they should have access to some things. So when you talk to students about, oh, you need to talk about what you need, we need you to talk about housing, food, books, and things like that, they shy away from it. I don't want to talk about this, I don't want to talk about that. So students need to understand that we are actually the future of tomorrow, we are the leaders of tomorrow. So if we don't talk about what we need, if we don't shape our future, how are we laying or maybe like lay foundation for people that are coming after us to build their own future? So what I'm trying to say in essence is we need to come out, we need to speak, because if you don't speak out, people won't know what you're going through. If you don't come to like a meeting like this where you can be heard, then nobody's gonna know what you're going through. So it's not about, oh yeah, they should know. Yeah, they might know, but they might not know everything. So we need our students to be able to come out, let them know what the government should do about, okay, this is what we need more, and this is what we need them to do. So, so we're going to encourage our fellow students for them to understand the essence of having events like this. And so when we're talking about housing, so I can say, if I, for example, don't have a place to lay my head, where to dress up and come out to school, how is it possible for me to even understand what's going on in school? Because the basic thing that I need is a house, a place to live in. Even the birds, they have their own nests. So as human, if we don't have a place to stay, because we've seen a lot of students living on the streets, they don't have any support, they don't have accommodation, and this is the Bay Area, and it's like everything is getting really, really expensive. So if I don't have a place to stay as a student, how is it possible for you to come to me and talk to me about going to school, or even think that somebody cares about me? So we need students to be able to come out and let us know, or let the government know what they need.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Rothman. I think that the housing insecurity is also connected with the food insecurity. I think they're both connected. I think that Laney has done a good job in their food program they have here. I see them feeding a lot of people every day. So I think that's great. I know that a lot of people in facing housing insecurity, they're being moved all over the place. You know, if you set up one place and then they move you, I think that causes another insecurity. If you have established a community or an encampment and then they remove you from where you're at and displace you, it creates even more insecurity. Your resources have changed. Wherever you were getting food from before, now you have to go somewhere else. And I know that Laney is working on a resolution. I know Ms. Atia up there is working on something to get students housing. I think that's commendable. I think Laney is doing a good job and moving in the right direction. And I think more people should know about it and be involved. I don't believe that a lot of people know what Laney has to offer. And I think more people should be aware of what we're doing here. I think it does help in creating stability in people's lives, and I think that's the direction to aid in the food and housing issue we have here.
I also recognize that there's some administrators here, so we would like to bring the question of, in what ways do you work with students and student leaders to increase awareness and participation in basic needs program? in basic needs programs and services available on campus, and how can these be strengthened?
First of all, and I touched on this in my opening remarks, one of the things that we found was either a lack of awareness or maybe some hesitation about applying for financial aid. I think that's one of the things we found. And in the fall, because we shifted attention to applying for FAFSA, submitting DREAM Act paperwork, we actually saw an increase of 2,000 students here who did that from the year before. I think that's something that's very important. One of the other things that we're finding is community college. Really, the word community is so fitting. And within our programs, really on a community college campus, making you, our students, feel that sense of belonging, saying, hey, yes, this is my college. And belonging to great learning communities such as Umoja, Puente. At Laney College here, we have something called the SOAR program, which supports students by providing basically concierge service at the drop of a phone call. And so I think a lot of those steps on making students feel that sense of belonging is important. And basically making them understand, and I know my one experience with community college, I remember I took one class, I showed up in my car, I sat down in the classroom, and then when it was done, I went home. And I know that's a lot of the experience that people have, but having the experience of really belonging to a college, being part of the network, being part of a community, no matter what it might even be extracurricular activities, but having that sense of belonging is something that's very important, and that's an area where we really want people to feel invested in Laney College, and just offering that as a starting point.
Hello everyone, thank you for being with us today. My name is Atira Shana, and I am Director of Student Activities here at Laney College. And so I'm super thankful for all of the participation. As you may know, the Associated Students of Laney College has really been active and partnering with Chanel and SSCCC to, I guess you could say, lead or push this effort for student housing and food, and really this equity movement, so that we can meet the needs of our students so they can stay and attain the education that they need so they can build a better future for themselves. So that being said, one of the initiatives that emerged out of our work in our meetings is a petition. So we have a really unique opportunity with our Peralta Community College District to apply for a higher education student housing grant. And that would really help to offset some of the need for our students. And the way that works is our district applies for that grant. And if and when awarded, we're able to purchase a building, rehab the building, and provide single occupancy dwellings for students. So it's somewhat like dorms, details to be worked out through the district should they go this route. But we have convened and thought it'd be a really great idea to start a petition. And the petition is simply asking for a student signature in support of having student housing at the Peralta Community College District. So I'll just read, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention John Sullivan, who also led a housing workshop in partnership with ASLC and Unity Council, and he's outside today getting students to sign this petition and come in to this event, participate. But he worked with Poor People's Campaign, and we had a meeting not too long ago and drafted a petition. And some keynotes are approximately 83% of Peralta Community College students face housing insecurities, compared to about 48% of community college students nationwide. Approximately 30% of Peralta students self-report experiencing homelessness in the past year, compared to about 14% of students nationwide. Over half of the students who experience housing insecurities or homelessness report that unmet housing needs impact their educational success. And students attending Peralta colleges are at a sufficiently higher risk of experiencing homelessness or housing insecurities due to the extremely competitive private housing market and the immense gentrification occurring in the East Bay. So I think we have flyers here with QR codes. We have a petition at change.org/student housing PCCD. And I think, did we drop that in the chat? Okay, so if you are online, you'll see a link in the chat. If you could fire it out to all of your friends, your constituencies. It can go through the district, it can go in the community, and we're really just trying to solicit support with our primary focus being obviously Toronto Community College students and faculty and staff to support this ask. And it's a soft ask. It's a request to work in partnership with the district to apply for this housing grant. So if you could take the 2 minutes of your time to add your name to that list, that'd be great, and share the link as well. And thank you again for everyone who participated in the great work that is done here at Laney College. I'm so proud to be an Eagle. Our president supports everything that we do, and our president Ogalola does as well. At ASLC, I could not ask for a better associated student done.
Thank you to all the college administrators for taking the question. Are there any other answers for the question? If not, I would like to bring the attention back to the students on what do we think are the most important basic needs in our community that we already went over, but after the conversation that we heard from another perspective of the administrators, does this bring any other thoughts and opinions from you guys?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. We all know what's going on in California now. We've talked about security. Active shooting. This has been a big concern for ASLC. And we've had like a series of training, active shooter training. Because if we go on campus and we don't feel safe, because there might be a situation that we don't pray for. So we actually need the help of the government in respect to mental health. We've just gone through a pandemic, which we need mental health for students, for us, because we're trying to socialize. For a long time, we're like living separately. It's like you don't even say hi to your next neighbor. It's like, so joke apart. So we actually need the help of government, like I said. When it comes to mental health, we need them to look into these aspects because students need good mental health for it to even function as a student in the first place, and then we need more support. So we have a club at Laney College, which is called the Evolved Minds Club. It's our contribution from ASLC to help us fellow students, to distress. We actually call it distress, we have a wellness center, we have a lot of things, but we actually need the help of government, in respect to mental health. Like I said, insecurity can actually lead to having mental health issues. So we all need our support because sometimes we still have that thing going on campuses. Students are very scared to associate, you don't know what's going on in this person's life. It's not like you're intruding. But we need to care because we have to live like a community. School is a place where you come to, it's like a second home. Your teachers are actually like your parents. So it's a place where you have to have that balance. You have to feel that you belong. You have to feel that you're safe. You have to feel like, okay, somebody listens to me. So like I said, you need help when it comes to mental health. I don't know if I can cheat this in, if that's possible.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it's done, but I don't know what can be done, but I think it's a gap that has to be filled. I think there has to be like help when it comes to extracurricular activities. For students to have like a well-rounded experience on campus. I think the government needs to help us in terms of sports, in terms of like extracurricular activities, because it's not about coming to school and read, it's about gaining knowledge about everything, like almost everything. Because right now we see a lot of students that come to campus, it's all about reading. It's good to read, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, what about those extracurricular activities can actually help students? We're talking about basketball, and I'm not even sure if there's any basketball field, I'm not sure. I'm just saying that we can actually get more help from government in terms of extracurricular activities.
Linking back to that, I think one of the most important basic needs for students is mental health and mental health awareness, right? I think with how, especially the pandemic has really enclosed our borders, how we interact with people, how we socialize with others. It was all through the internet, online, apps. So I think for some students, it may be a good option to come back to school and also like engage with, like, for example, the Laney community, right? So I think a lot of people are also considering going to the fitness center here and also like engaging with the Laney community as we have many events and students are coming back into schools, you know, for the sake of community and also feeling less alone, I would say. Because for me, back during the pandemic, it was a darker time for me as, you know, I had only been able to be with myself and I guess my contacting with people was basically limited to being online all the time. Online, on the computer, on my phone, just, it is so constant and it is really nice to see how Laney and the rest of Peralta is embracing coming back to school, I would say, because it really helps with mental health to feel like being part of a community and also being, being part of a community. And it's really nice. And so I think that's awesome for mental health.
But like we have pointed out, not just the physiological needs like food, water, warmth and rest, and food and housing insecurity, we also have different needs in order for a student to succeed in their higher education. And that could be community, like that has been brought up multiple times in this conversation today. And also like esteem needs such as prestige and feeling of accomplishment and just recognizing the amount of time and work that people put in to make sure that they feel like they belong in the community, and also campus safety and belongingness and love needs and self-actualization. So we just want to highlight the fact that these are more than just what a person physically needs to survive, but also emotionally and mentally to survive.
Hi again, everyone. So yes, I absolutely agree. Mental health is very important, and that's why I'm here, just to let you know we do have a mental health community for everyone on campus. My name is Danielle. I am the student support specialist in the mental health department. So what I'm working on now is to get like community stuff, like workshops. We're planning like a self-care fair and just trying to get everyone good, because I understand, you know, how the effects of the pandemic has happened. And it's hard to readjust to community and stuff like that. So we do have it available. You can always type in mental health center or wellness center and find us. You can call us, you can come see us. We are here. So hopefully I will see a lot more people. We're here to support you. There is an abundance of support here at Laney. So come out, get right. Even if you just want to stop in and say, hey, I'm having a bad day or I'm stressed out and need to breathe, this is a safe space for you guys. So just so you know.
Thank you for all the work you do and the work you do to support students, not just administrators, but all the people here and staffers and faculty and everybody who's here to make this possible. So there are different policymakers' roles in supporting us, and from these meeting notes, I will be having conversations with different officers and staffers to bring the questions that were being asked and brought up in these events, not just in this event, but all the other 5 events in other districts, and giving answers and possibly reaching out to everybody here again through your emails on the answers that you were looking for. So the U.S. representatives serve in 2-year terms, up to election every 2 years, and it's a smaller district, so it is like closer to the people. And it has the power of being the only Congress people who can submit bills originating appropriations. And after that, we have California State Assembly members who who are similar to the roles of U.S. representatives. It serves a 2-year term as well, but it does not have the sole power to originate appropriation bills. And it shares with that with the California State Senate appropriation bills and share that with the state Senate. And for the mayors, it depends on the structure of the city council, and the executive is usually in charge of guiding the city council in city, however long that their term may be. But it has a lot of influence on shaping and directing the policy efforts in the city itself. On the college level, we have the college administrators who play a really big part in shaping and implementing different policies on campus, because there may be different bills and laws, but if it's not being implemented, there's a gap of implementation and knowledge. So we really want to emphasize the roles of college administrators in supporting us.
For the policymakers, I think we need to have more events like this. Where we have them come to our level to listen to us and know what our plights are. Because, like I said, if they don't really come, to us like this kind of event, there's no how for them to know what we actually need. So I think we need more policymakers to come to the grassroots level to listen to us, and then we can actually tell them what we need. Which is going to help in making policies that's going to get back to this grassroots level.
Yeah, definitely. I think one way that policymakers can support us is by holding events like this. I think that engaging with the community, as an activist myself, I think that it's really important for people empowered to listen to the communities directly. But I also believe that we need community members and policymakers who are from the community, who already know the issues that's happening in the community. And so I think that it's very important for any policymaker, any leader to listen to the community and understand what circumstances that they're from. And so I really applaud the students in the California community colleges to actually come into the grounds of the community and listening to the community and what they need. Because I'm sure it's hard to listen to community members and getting people engaged, but I think I just lost my train of thought. But I think listening to the community and finding what they need is really important. A leader shouldn't think about themselves and think about what they need or what they want to do, but they need to think about what their community needs and what they want to do.
I think this event is a very important event, and I think the more that we can do to get students involved in events like this, the better. I think, surveys, possibly more surveys, I know we do surveys, adding more surveys, and just more outreach to reach the students and let them know that their voice is important. I know that we're working on in the ASLC a student ambassador program to have representatives from each of the individual classes to provide feedback to the student government and the leadership here at Laney College to just widen student voices and student opinion and student input. So I do appreciate this event. I think it is very beneficial to provide a platform for the students to voice their concern.
I believe President Rudy already addressed us at the beginning of this event. I just want to take this opportunity to thank them for even allowing us to have this program in the first place. And I think from our end, I'm talking about ALCC, the student bodies, we are doing our best to make our fellow students understand why we need to, come together and have one voice, if you know what I mean. But we still need more students to come out and talk a little more. But I just want to make a request, because I believe online we have Mary College and we have the VPLA, Zach Golden. So I just want to beg people online to please join us. It's not really about people that are even here in person. We need input from Mary College, we need input from other colleges. This is a time for us to come together and talk about this. And then back to the policymakers, like I said, they have to come down to a level and get us engaged. And at the same time, I believe there are actually grants for students, when it comes to housing, when it comes to food and things like that. We have this change.org, what Ms. Atiya talked about all the time, where students can actually go to sign petition. But at the same time, how do we know if we sign this petition, how do we know that these things will be worked on? Because I feel it's a question that they have to give an answer to. I know this is a question from you, Chanel, but it's like I'm asking the question back, because we're seeing a lot of things, but how are they going to come in and help us?
So we're talking about Mira College and also the people in power that are here present. And so I think I would be interested, I think many people here would be interested in, hearing from those people in power on Zoom, VP Wooden, and also folks that what is happening at the Senate of California Community College, what's happening up there and not what's happening here in this moment.
What is the Senate of California Community College doing to address housing insecurities and food insecurities?
Yeah, so I can go ahead and start off with that. So the first part with regards to basic needs, the SSCCC, in the past couple of years with the budget, there's already been a lot of progress in establishing basic needs centers across the state. So all 116 colleges, physical campuses have basic needs coordinators now. There's funding and budget for them. And that's a big thing because they didn't previously exist before the past couple of years, or if they did, they weren't funded that well by the state. So that's big progress that came before I was Vice President of Legislative Affairs. This year, we're working with the Student Homes Coalition, and it's a coalition between the student associations of the UC Student Association, the California State Student Association, other different groups. We've come up with housing policy that we plan to push this year, specifically focusing on advocating for the money that was deferred in the budget for housing grants to develop, for colleges to be able to develop housing for students. A lot of that got deferred in the governor's proposed budget in January. So our goal is to advocate for that to be included because housing is important and housing is important now. It's not important, a year from now. And additionally, there's policy that regards to making it easier to develop student housing on a local level so that colleges don't have to go through a whole bunch of permits and processes and reviews. If they meet a specific standard already, then they can just go ahead with development and building that housing now for the students that need it. That's just a brief summary, but I'm more than happy to answer any further questions about that.
That was a lot of information, but thank you so much, VP Wooden. And you was interested in talking about Mara College as well. Okay. I think we do have a representative from Mara College. I don't know if you would be interested in talking about housing, what does housing, like any programs or any issues you guys face, if you guys are online.
Yes, I have a question for VP Wooden. I just want to appreciate you, Chanel, for bringing this to Laney College and came at the right time. My question for VP Wooden is, all this information, how do we get to know this information? I know you just give some information out that I'm probably hearing for the first time. So how do we keep track of what's going on? If you understand my question, how do we get to know, oh, this is going on, and oh, just sending us email of what's going on, or probably maybe going to colleges to organize such events, maybe like every month, just to make sure students are getting information about what's going on up there. Because sometimes, if students don't know what's going on up there, then how would they ask questions, if you know what I mean? And then my second question is, how often are we going to be having this type of event?
I can take the question because that question is directed towards me and not towards VP Wooden. So we will be having discussions like these as consistent as possible in this year. So we have events in 6 districts regarding basic needs. This one is in Parada, but we also had it in Contra Costa Community College District and also Chevron Las Pasicas Community College District where Congressman Slowell and 2 mayors of Hayward and San Leandro joined us for the discussions, and also Assemblymember Boynton, Grayson, and other officers also joined us for the discussions. So we hope to get all these discussions on access districts done, and then after all these, we will be quantifying the data and then making it really streamlined so everybody can understand the information that we provided, and also having follow-up questions that you might have answered by not just me or the organization itself, but also the state legislators follow-up meetings on that, and also will be distributing it to the content information that we have in the sign-in sheet, and also with the AS, obviously, to maintain that communication. And as to answer your question on how to keep up with advocacy, we are open to being flexible with events. If you want another event, we could be having another event. We were planning to have events on transportation and campus safety, as they are one of the legislative priorities for our region. So we also have such events on the statewide level as well. We have a Native American Town Hall this Friday, so we always have like consistent events. But if you want to know, the website is on www.ssccc.org, and I can give you more information on.
Hi there, how are you guys doing? My name is Neil. This is my second semester at Laney. I feel very supported. I would say I had one idea. I started driving to school recently, and I noticed that in the parking lot, you have to cross the road, you have to cross the street in order to get into the Laney campus. So a lot of people I noticed they have a jaywalk, because in order to cross the street legally, you have to go all the way up the street and then take the crosswalk. No one's doing that. They're all jaywalking, which should be illegal. But yeah, so I think if we can pull up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's one of them, safety. So that would improve student safety, I think, is if maybe somehow we got a crosswalk just right there from the parking lot to the campus. So yeah, that's one suggestion I had. The other thought I had was that maybe we could do something like a community cleanup day. I remember like last semester there was like a lot going on with Lake Merritt. We were seeing articles of like fishes turning up, and fishes coming out of the water, and just all these things we were hearing about Lake Merritt. And we have the great fortune of having Lake Merritt is actually part of our campus, and I didn't know that because for a while I was only on this part of Laney, but then I walked across the bridge, and we actually have some very beautiful environment on this campus. I think that we really need to utilize that space. So maybe we could just have a day where people could come together and just clean up. I mean, it could be for an hour or something, and we could even go to the greater Lake area and clean up too, because it's sometimes nice to just volunteer and do something together as a group. It makes you feel like you're part of something, makes you feel like you're doing something to help out with your community. Because I'm a little late to this forum, so I think it's about, we're addressing policymakers, but I'm curious about what can we do to help ourselves. I mean, what can we do what can the students do? What can we do as a community to improve our own things instead of waiting for government funding or whatever? I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but yeah, what can we do right now to make a difference? So yeah, thank you.
So advocacy is defined as any action that speaks in favor of recommending, arguing for a cause, supporting or defending, or pleading on behalf of others. But this is just a definition out from a work group. But advocacy we would like to ask what advocacy personally means to you, because like we said, this is just from a walk through class, the chancellor's office walk on. And the next question would be importance of advocacy, but what do you think advocacy means to you?
I'm just gonna, jokingly, to me, I think advocacy means crying out. It's, crying out loud. And you have to like be consistent about this. It's not about just speaking up once, but it has to be continuous. It's something you have to talk about every time until you get what you want. I think that's what advocacy means to me. It's more or less like I said, it's continuous. It's not just about talking about it once. Like, we're having an event today, which is good, but it has to be consistent. It has to, like, every time, we have to keep, saying the same thing all over again until we get what we actually want. So to me, I think that's what advocacy means. I don't know if anyone else has another definition of advocacy. Anyone else? Charles, so you're still an advocate, so I believe this is your territory, if you understand what I mean. So can you come downstairs and talk to us about what advocacy means?
I think being an advocate is like being a representative for a community or a group of people. So I'm the student advocate here at Laney College, and I want to get the best accurate, what students are really thinking and how they can, what ideas they would have to improve their academic journey here. So my definition of advocacy is being able to adequately represent all students at Laney College, and I think that's a pretty important role. And being able to understand the needs and like what students want is very important, and how that plays into the role of future enrollment and how we can improve academics as a whole, especially with technology nowadays. So that's my definition of advocacy. Thank you.
So we have Lisa Hogan, right? Who's the president of the student body at American College. She has something to say about this. So Lisa, if you're ready, please go ahead.
So your question is, what is an advocate? Right?
Advocacy.
What is advocacy? Well, I think it's addressing the wrong but trying to make it right. I feel like the work that I do in my community, I feel like we're addressing the issues in front of people in power. We're addressing the issues in front of these people that they claim to know the community. And so I feel like the work that I do is a lot of that. You know, the community is mad and they want justice and they want their own basic needs to be addressed. And so I think that's what advocacy is. It's supporting, it's addressing, it's, you know, in whatever means necessary, being able to get the basic needs and getting their necessities in life possible without restraints and not being able to be confronted with issues or problems.
Hey everybody, thanks for attending. My name is Katrina Santos. I'm the new Basic Needs Coordinator for Laney. This is my third week here, but what I plan to do and what I envision is really utilizing our Student Center as a resource hub for our students for basic needs. So we have our food pantry. I'm working on different partnerships with housing resources as well, and just really trying to reach out to the Oakland community and find those resources for students. So everything's pretty new right now, but I am in the Student Center on the 3rd floor. I'll have some open hours where students can come in and tap into some resources, CalFresh and those types of things. I'm working on a clothing closet for our students. So just really utilizing really utilizing what we have already, and just incorporating and braiding those services that we have on campus as well. So I do look forward to working with students, faculty, staff, the community, just so we can get all those basic needs supported for our students. Thank you.
So this brings back to why we engage in advocacy and what factors can enhance a student's capacity to engage in advocacy. I know I've been directing these questions to you guys, so I would like to give my input on what I think students' capacity to engage in advocacy will look like. I feel like a student's capacity not only depends on higher education, but it also brings back to the point of you are a human first before you are a student. And the fact that you need to think about your rent, you need to think about how many hours of the day you can actually put in a non-profit and volunteer work when you have to worry about your rent, when you have to worry about whether you can afford the utilities this month. Personally, for me, I have to pay my own rent and I have to pay my utilities, and that is not cheap in the Bay Area. And I feel like I should be clocking in the hours I spent doing this advocacy work when I can get $15 per hour minimum wage if I clock into my work. And the fact that I have to choose between basic needs, being able to survive, or being a good student leader and giving the voices back to the students is a choice that I should not be making as a student. So are there any other input that the students want to put on this?
So I just adding on, because we already covered a lot about advocacy with me, but like for why we do engagement, I guess not part of Laney, I am part of COA, but it does apply here too, because back at our campus, during last semester, we had problems where we were trying to look into like people like might have had higher rates of like dropping out or just struggling with the first semester. So we looked into it, we realized that we needed to get some advocacy because we had a lot of students that were like, whether they were dealing with like second languages or they were just more like elderly, and they actually couldn't reach out to us about their problems, or they thought it was just a problem that only applied to them because they couldn't navigate any of the online systems or reach out to anyone on campus that they knew. So sometimes things need to be advocated just because the people who talk about them or the only people who can just don't know where to go. So it's nice that like sometimes we have to be able to look forward as well instead. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. One of the issues that we see in each campus is that the resources implemented on campus, but the lack of outreach and communication is something that we've been trying to work on in helping colleges establish like minimum communication. And right now, the Student Senate is also working on implementing the SAP minimum qualification bill that is on the table right now, and it's one of the bill, and we've been working on for that as well. And also, we are working towards potentially looking at brown act reform so that students have a chance of participating, not just in person but online as well, because the state of emergency is ending by the end of this month, and we really want leaders to be able to participate in opportunities and leadership roles like these. Any other input on this?
So I know that the question that's on the screen was really for students, but I would like to weigh in on one thing, maybe on talking cause and effect, a little bit more on the effect side. Student advocacy is critical. We, as college leaders, we have access to data. I can tell you from our fall semester that, based on what we did, I can tell you all the data in terms of our enrollment increases. But what I can't tell you all the time is the student experience. As an educational leader, I need your stories. I need your perspectives. That is critical as I make the cases for the things that I need to, or that as college leaders do that. So is your advocacy important? Absolutely. Because your perspective, your lens, and most importantly, your story is what drives community colleges.
Thank you. Thank you for listening actually, because it's really hard to have this type of communication where we feel like we're actually being heard. So we want to like everybody who is actually listening. And when we do advocacy, stories and personal experiences are what I personally feel like capture the attention of policymakers and congressmen and all the policymakers that you might think have all the sentences right now, because that feels real and that feels like each story is different and my life is different from what you're experiencing, even though it's easy to generalize and have a biased opinion on people. So are there any other input on this? So on the decision-making pathway, we have 3 cycles, which is legislative cycle, budget process, and policy review process right now. So for the legislative cycle, we have a proposed language that passes through the legal counsel, and after that, the last day to introduce bill is actually this Friday. And then after the last day to introduce bill, it goes through multiple committee hearings, which is the first House committee hearing will be in March and May between that time. And then if that passes and the bill gets forwarded to different committees, it goes through the voting, which it will be done in May. And after it passes, it repeats the same cycle again for the second time. And that will be between June and August. And after that, they sign the legislative deadline, which is September. And if the governor signs the bills and take actions on the bills that have passed the houses, it is in October, and the bill comes in effect the next year of January. So right now it's a really important moment in legislative cycle because bills are being introduced and being brought onto the table right now. And the last day for people to actually order bills is this Friday. So this is really important for us right now in advocacy, because right now we have 2 bills that are being co-sponsored by Insecurity, which is one to get student trustee advisory votes for all student trustees, which is really important because our voice as students are not being heard in some districts. So that's something that we've been working on as well. And also student representation fee opt-out for state as well. So these bills are being authored right now, and we're also looking at other stuff on the state level. So the next cycle is the budget process, which is the governor introduced the budget for this 2023 to 2024 already, and it's going through multiple budget hearings and process. So the most important part of this higher education part in the budget proposal right now is the increase in Pell Grant and cost of living 8.13% adjustment as well. So that's the budget proposal right now, and it's going through multiple budget hearings, and the governor's revisions will be in April and May, and the legislative action will be taken in June, and the governor's consideration will be done in June as well, and the year ends in July 1st. Last but not least, the most important point is implementing all these bills that are being brought to the table. So we have policy review process, and we really want to focus on consistency of implementation in our region right now, because some of the areas have better implementation and outreach and engagement, while some campuses may not have that much engagement in those conversations and policy conversations. So on the policy review process, college administrators play a really huge role in supporting students because, so for example, the first will be committee recommendation. So you can go to a committee to make a recommendation, and that can be brought to the college president and for the college council for first review. I don't want to speak on behalf of the college council, but this is a brief description of all the pathways that we found. And if you have any input, President, you can make any. Okay, and then after that we have constituency review, where the Senate reviews the. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Review the recommendation, and after that they go through the second reading for the college council, And after that will be the president and board approval of the recommendations that are being brought up on the table. I know that my college is right now looking at college athlete policy review for transgender people, and these are one of the examples that we do to recommend and actually make a change on campus when we have these type of conversations. Are there any questions right now? Or any input? No? Okay. So how to advocate? So SSCCC have different workshops and webinars where we actually educate people on how to advocate and how to advocate. So these are the resources that I put out right now, but I can also send it out through email as well. And we have different workshops, but I did not want to go into detail because this is a listening forum for students and how students experiences about basic needs. So we might have a different webinar on how to advocate towards legislators, and we're looking at different potential speakers right now, but I just want to bring this attention to you guys. And we also have advocacy in April where we will be having guest speakers like the Higher Education Chair Assembly Member Mike Fong on April 12th, and other guest speakers on the state level, not just in the region level, in Sacramento on April 12th, where different colleges will be coming together to do advocacy as well. And we also pass resolutions annually to guide the organization on our efforts and what we feel like necessary on the college, on the state level. So for resolutions to pass, the deadline is already over for this year, but any student can submit resolutions to SSCCC so that all the 118 colleges will vote on it. If that passes, that will be a priority for our advocacy work, and we will try to implement what you want to do written in these resolutions in the next year. So right now the delegate assembly will be on March 31st to April 2nd, and we will be voting on resolutions that are being submitted right now, which includes ranging from cost repeatability policies to other issues that we see like DACA and our advocacy efforts that we will be voting on, but they have not been passed yet. So we don't know what the direction is for this year. Are there any questions about resolutions? So why do we do advocacy? Like we have been having this conversation multiple times in this event. We want to establish a goal or a purpose. So this event is about basic needs. So who do we advocate towards? So we have different system partners, like we said, faculty, college administrators, policymakers, assembly members, congressmen, different levels on the federal level, on the state level, district level. We have council members, we have mayors, and understanding the realm of influence and what they can do to support us is really crucial when we think of these conversations. And after that, we will be preparing a story of why your experience should be hard, why they should listen to you. And after that, we do scheduling, and with different officers, that's really my job of having guest speakers, right? Having those relationships with people so that I can bring these students, your stories to them, and also bring them towards you so that there's this relationship between us. And after that is the research. So that's a cycle that we use for best practice right now, and there are different ways that obviously you can have connections and relationships with. So creating a roadmap for action plan, so any student can do what these steps. For example, why do we engage in advocacy, and then what are the issues, and what factors can enhance a student capacity to engage in advocacy, and how can advocacy impact policy conversations like these? And what have you done on your campus? And also the last is celebrating the success that we put so much time and effort into having these type of discussions. So this is an action plan that we use to draft for different issues. That is for your resource that I can also send out. So are there any questions at this moment? Or follow-up questions? Okay. So there's a poll survey if you want to answer. I apologize that we could not have a guest speaker this time because due to some emergency situations, but for the next events, I hope that we can continue this relationship so that we will improve and grow and learn from these type of events. And before we conclude the event, I would like to state my appreciation for everybody, the college president, and everybody for having us. And I hope that we can continue the relationship between this as a student senate and us as well, and we can improve and grow and learn to engage students in having these policy discussions. Thank you all for coming.
Goodbye, but see you next time.
Thank you.
Recording stop.
Thank you guys for coming and supporting us.
Thank you everyone. Thank you.